Welcome back. Now we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers. If you have a question, visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. Dr. Shabir, here is the question. Can you please advise me on how to lower my gaze? I don't want to sin, but how do I do this, practically speaking?
Yeah. So the specifics of this are not detailed in the Quran and the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So we have to improvise a little bit on this question. It's not like we're asking, how do I pray? And then there's the ABCs, all the way from beginning to end. This is how you start. This is how you finish, and everything in between. So this has a lot to do with time and place and circumstance and who you're interacting with and so on. So the Quran puts it in a very broad manner. In Surah 24, verse number 30, the Quran says, "قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ." Tell the believing men that they are to lower or avert some of their gaze. It deliberately says some of their, because it says min absarihim. With the min here is what the Arab grammarians call min tabaid, which means it's to refer to a part of. So some of. It's a better translation. And then the next verse says, "Well, وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ," and tell the believing women that they are to lower or to avert some of their gaze. Again,
some of, yes.
Yeah, some
it's
of.
It's funny because the sum of is never really mentioned. When people say lower your gaze, it often seems as if one needs to look down and not look at all at the opposite gender. Right?
Yes.
And which makes it very difficult because you can imagine it could lead to very awkward encounters, right? Where you're talking to somebody but you're not looking at them at all.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily looking down. It could be averting, looking away from, right? And it's really, gaze is the proper translation here, because it's not the simple glance. The glance is already done, but you're not going to keep staring at something that you're not supposed to look at. And of course, part of that general prescription, like the flip side of that, is that people should dress modestly. So when the men were being told to lower their gazes, they were also being told وَيَحْفَظُونَ فُرُوجَهُمْ, and they should guard their private parts. And the women are being told as well to guard their private parts and to draw their head coverings over their bosom so as to not reveal of their ornaments or their fineries except to individuals who are closely related to them. So there are measures like this. So it's a kind of a balanced way of governing our society so that we bring out the best in people rather than, feed into the lowest of our desires. Now, having said that, it's important that we don't overstress this, and we understand that different circumstances require different treatments. Even in the verse number 31 that requires women to cover some of their bodies, this it gives exceptions, right? And among the exceptions are those men who are coming in and out serving within the family setting. They're not related to the women, but they are tabi'in. They are, they are followers. They are ones who come and, do whatever you request them to do. And then there are men who do not have desire for women, who are mentioned in the same context. What is obviously at work here is to prevent evil. And if the evil is prevented by another means, meaning that, for example, like those who are serving, they dare not interfere with the women because they're in a kind of a lower position, and they depend on this because they're following in order to get something. Like they will serve you and you will pay them. They will get something to eat. That will be their bread. So they have something to lose here by doing something untoward. So that itself is a curtailment. And as for those who don't have desire for the women, well, then the women are safe from them anyway. So that's not an issue. So you see that there are practical considerations here. Now, going outside of the Quran, we will find that there are indications in hadith that one must be a little bit more careful. For example, there's a hadith says to men, to Jabir to begin with, but by extension, one would take it to be for all men, do not go anywhere the women are, right? So you have a sense of separation of spaces here between the men's space, the women's spaces. And, the Prophet, peace be upon him, saying to his cousin Ali, the first glance is for you, but not the second one. So that would mean that if you happen to glance upon something that is not suitable to be seen, well, then you turn away your glance and then you don't look back at it, right? And by extension, it will mean that you don't keep staring at it. But everything has to be done in a balanced way. People, may need to see someone, as you said yourself. You're looking at somebody, you met somebody, if you're looking away in a certain context, that would be quite respected. You're within a certain Muslim environment, for example, you're talking to another person and you're looking away, and the other person says, oh, well, this is a pious Muslim individual, right? He doesn't look at the women. Okay, so they appreciate that. But in another context, a woman may feel that you are demeaning towards them, like, well, what's wrong with me? Why doesn't he look? Why is he looking away? Well, why no eye contact? Does he have something to hide? This is a shady person, So they form all of these different ideas. So in that situation, you have to relax a little bit, not because you want to do something wrong or you want to see something that you're not supposed to see, but first of all, because the context is like this. And I should say, first of all, actually going back to basic precepts, we would recognize that there was a lot more freedom for Muslims to interact with each other, male and female, in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, than the later tradition makes it out to be.
And, can you expand on that?
Well, let me say in brief very quickly that one of our scholars has written a book. The scholar's name is Abdul Halim Abu Shukra, and that book was written in Arabic, but it's now translated into English in 8 volumes and widely available. The book in Arabic is called Tahrir al-Mar'a fi Asr al-Risala, the liberation of women in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the English translation for each volume varies by title, emancipation of women, women's participation in society, modest dress, each volume has a different title. But this is a must read. And reading this, what we see is that this scholar has culled, mainly from Bukhari and Muslim, the most authentic collections of hadith, references showing that men and women interacted much more freely than we would imagine, given the constraints that we're being told about. So, there is a lot of scope for men and women to interact in a decent way that is not leading into, the possibility of adultery. One cuts it short when one sees it is going there, but one does not have to block it out completely from the inception. Yes, people are people. Some people will fall into error, but you cannot constrict the whole society in order to prevent the one error from occurring. And in the end, God is forgiving and merciful. That's what we're taught in our religion. So some mistakes will happen, but you have to allow for a certain degree of healthy freedom in the society for men and women to interact with each other.
All right. Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiyyah and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.